Welcome back to Etheria Restart. Today I'm here with my boy Hermes and we're taking a look at Cachi the Guard, breaking down how he's built, what he does, and why he's good for your team inside of Etheria Restart. I need to thank Etheria Restart for sponsoring today's video and urge all of you who have yet to try out the game or who are looking to re-roll or start a second account to use this QR code or my link in the description. That's going to get you 10 free summons, giving you opportunities to pull in more Animus on your account. But now, Hermes, let's dive into this build. Cachi the Guard. I want to go through his skills and then his modules and talk about why he's so good for really many people's account. I love it when we feature SRs on this channel as well because it's something that's a lot more attainable for all players.
Yeah, and I was actually going to say on that note, anybody that's watching the video, obviously, if you're looking for any R, just instead of like even not even SR, but just regular like R character guides, obviously, let us know. We'd love to obviously get into that a little bit. I just think, it's always fun to get like that mid tier of Animus that have like a good use in a bunch of different places in the game. Whereas, our characters are a lot more specific to certain areas. But, if people are looking for some guides on those, obviously, we'd be more than happy to put some of those out. So just, people to keep that in mind. But
heck yeah.
Anyway, back to the main thing. Cachi the GOAT. Not even Cachi the Guard. Cachi the GOAT. He is such a good Animus. And he's got, honestly, a really interesting mechanic on his S3 that we'll get into in a little bit. But I think it's good to go for him. S1 to S3, kind of talking about like that value, right? And
Sure.
that's, I think, the biggest thing is going value of his moves is important to go in that direction. So this initial one it's all right, right? It has 2 hits. Each one has a chance to put a 15% chance to inflict a 1-turn crit rate down buff, which is cool. It reduces the chance of getting crit, does less damage. That's nice. Obviously, you can increase the chance up to 20% for that to be put out. And then you also increase the duration up to 2 turns. So that's like a cool debuff if you get, but you're not really like building him for this decreased crit rate in most cases, just because you're not really getting crit by a lot of PvE bosses, which are where I think he is probably best.
All right. Let's take a look.
So I think that...
Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, like, let's get into this S2, which I think has a little more value to people and players. Again, like, this is the way it goes with most Animus, right? That S1 is cool. Sometimes it's, like, really, really good. Like, some characters, like, or Animus, such as, like, Lingluo, who we recently did a guide on. She has a really valuable S1. But then you have guys like Cachi the Guard that don't really have as valuable of an S1. And, that is what it is. But I think this S2 has a lot more value on it. It has 3 hits with a 50% chance to set the turn meter back by 20%, and the final hit has a 75% chance to inflict a 2-turn speed down. Now, this is an ability, especially since he is an SR, that I think is very good for people to invest in. I see you haven't done that yet. I'm assuming you just haven't farmed enough in your GP outpost, and so I think obviously get in there. You probably have enough lattice or can buy the lattice from like your union shop in order to get that. So I think he is a valuable one to max out this ability on.
Okay.
Because of the control that it brings, really slowing down one of your enemies, which is really good. I mean, whether that's a boss or that's an enemy Animus, whatever it is, that's a good ability overall. But the S3 is the complex part of his kit, but is also the really cool part of his kit, right?
Yeah.
So when we go to that S3, you'll see obviously it's already maxed, but the base part of his kit is that he applies a 2-turn defense up to all enemies. That's just like the basic. That's what you get. You build him, you have no stats on him at all. That's what you're gonna get. But you have a chance when success triggers, additionally applies a 1-turn immunity, and when critical success triggers, extends all buffs duration by 1 turn. Now, what is the success and critical success, you might be asking? So, success, this is really, really interesting part of his kit, because you think, he has debuffs on his S1 and his S2, but not on his big valuable move, his S3. But he has, on success, has an 80% chance of your effect accuracy to trigger. What that means is that if you have 100% effect accuracy built into your kit, you then have an 80% chance to trigger success, which puts out a 1-turn immunity, which is very valuable to have just in general. Like a 2-turn immunity is so good because then even after you take a turn, if the enemies are taking a turn after you, you still can then use that again in order to get an additional turn of immunity. But critical success is 55% chance of your effect accuracy to trigger. So again, we'll go back to that 100% effect accuracy. You have 100% effect accuracy, you have a 55% chance to trigger. Now, you have a 200% effect accuracy, then you would have on to trigger success, you would have you would have what, a 160% chance to trigger. So obviously your 100% chance to trigger that. And if you have 200%, you would have a 110% chance to trigger that critical success. So on Cachi the Guard, you really want to have 190% plus effect accuracy to guarantee that critical success triggers. But you also need to make sure that this skill is fully maxed in order to have that value, because those percentages are lower when he is unlatticed.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so let's actually go to the modules and see what those stats look like right now. Notice I got him in some Swift Rush, Time Weave, and Ether Plague.
So it looks like speed, effect accuracy, and more effect accuracy.
Right.
This is the kind of build you're looking at. Obviously, so looking at your effect accuracy, you're actually at 250%. So you're even actually a little over capped on what you really need. Because again, you really are looking for 190% to be totally set, right? So you actually have even a little too much, where you could actually then invest some more into his HP or his defense to kind of make him a little bit more tanky, which is probably something you'll want to do, especially as you start using him more in content. But this is, a good starting build for a debuffer, quote unquote debuffer, that you need in order to have his buffs be useful. But the big sets again for him are going to be Swift Rush. Time Weave is really good, especially if you can get a 12-piece Time Weave. And the reason why for that is because the Time Weave has a chance to reduce skill cooldowns. And when you're able to reduce skill cooldowns when you get that 12-piece set, obviously you then get around to his buffs more, you're extending those buffs even longer, and in general, you're just making his kit a lot more valuable.
No, that makes...
The other thing
Yep.
is that Ether Plague is really good one to have as well, because you get increased HP, you get an increase in effect accuracy. So it just makes his kit a lot more valuable, get a lot more effect accuracy going on him.
Yep. All right, good. Thanks for the breakdown on the gear. Now, we have the shell as well. What do you love about Gigabyte, or do you not love my Gigabyte choice?
I think Gigabyte is an okay one for him. So obviously, one, all of the matrix are the ones you want. So that in of itself is really valuable, right?
Yeah.
Making sure you have the proper matrix is probably one of the biggest things when it comes to shell as you're getting into your early late game, or you're getting into late game. But once obviously you get to the end game, you're going to want to make sure that you have the proper matrix and the proper shell and everything else. But if you had to pick one, I'd say making sure you have the proper matrix is really going to be valuable, because a lot of these shells have use no matter what, right? So
Yeah.
Gigabyte, every 3 turns the enemies take, you have you get your turn meter increased. And when you get to that turn meter increase, obviously that means that then you're able to improve you're reducing your cooldowns because you're taking more turns, and that's really valuable. I think another good one for him would probably be Dark Moon, because Dark Moon, kind of like with the Kloss, I think it was Kloss who we talked about. Oh, whoever it was, I don't remember. We talked about before with Dark Moon, has the chance to extend debuffs, and so that isn't great on his S3 ability. But that Dark Moon can really come into play when it's increasing that decreased speed or the decreased crit rate, which again, they're not the central focus of his kit, but they are bonuses and benefits that really help and aid that kit to be even better.
Thanks a lot for the breakdown, man. I appreciate you letting us know the importance of, getting the right shell on there as well, and kind of breaking that down for everyone. But basically, Cachi the Guard and SR that you should be working on your account. Hermes broke it down. I really appreciate it. Remember, guys, this video was sponsored by Etheria Restart, and we hope to see you back in the next one tomorrow. Remember, if you're looking to see some more basic Animus, let us know, and we can put those guys together for you as well.